Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. So, I've had this video has been requested by a few people. We're going to check out the Black Templars chapter here in Warhammer 40k. I don't know anything about the Black Templars whatsoever, so I'm eager to learn and see what they're about. But this is a video coming here from the Templin Institute, so the original video, I'll have a link to it down in the description below, and I'll have a link to the Templin Institute channel. Go check out the content. They got a ton of content over there on their channel, so check them out. Give them a sub, give them a follow, take a look at all their stuff, show them some love. But today, like I said, we're gonna check out what's going on here with the Black Templars. We're gonna learn a little something. Learn a little something here today. Let's do it. Already like the already liking the graphics here on screen. It's pretty cool.
Before we begin today's investigation, the Templin Institute Patreon has been updated.
Like we're looking through some digital archives or something.
So if you have the means and desire to help support the Templin Institute, now is the perfect time. A pledge of $15
okay. Go check out their Patreon. Go see what they got up there.
Templin Institute pin, while a $25 pledge guarantees a print of this original artwork. This offer ends on October 8th, 2022, but if you're watching this,
we're a little late on it, but that's fine.
We have some new special offer going on.
Exactly.
Templin
got some new stuff up.
Servo skulls, maybe.
It's fine.
Either way, you'll find a link to our Patreon in the description.
It's fine. But yeah, go check out their stuff. The Black Templars.
For 10,000 years, the Imperium of Man has withered in the shadow of the Great Crusade. It was an incalculable effort, a grand campaign, elevated to legend and myth. The Great Crusade marked the brief but golden era in human history, when the Emperor himself raised high a burning sword to throw back the darkness of the old night. Wherever his fleets and armies triumphed, civilization was rekindled. Wonders were rebuilt, star systems and sectors were reunited.
That halberd looks like it's also a gun. Is that the case? I'm assuming these are custodies here in this picture. Maybe not. They might not be. But that looks like it's like a halberd that's got like a rifle barrel of some sort, like right there. I've always wondered why they don't like in like future settings where they have guns that might not necessarily have recoil. Why not just make weapons like this that, are multi-purposed, that can have, melee and range capabilities like that. So stuff like that I always find fascinating. Anyway, enough of the tangent.
Unified, and the promise of technology and science pulled back humanity from the depths of its ignorance. The Battle of Istvan V marked the official end of the Great Crusade and the start of the heresy that would tear down everything it had sought to achieve.
Rip to my homies.
In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, the campaigns of the Emperor are a distant memory, intertwined with myth and lies. But the most terrible truth the enemies of mankind can learn is that the Great Crusade never ended. Even in this dark and terrible age, where the Imperium withers, fleets and armies tear across the galaxy in its name. But no longer do they carry with them the power of technology or science, nor the promise of progress and understanding. Now, the Great Crusade brings only death and vengeance, for it is no longer the Emperor that leads it, but his most zealous, vindictive sons, the Black Templars.
Interesting. Okay.
Like many of the institutions and organizations that today make up the Imperium of Man, the Black Templars were born from the fear of a second massive civil war, from which it would never recover. The transhuman Space Marine legions, immortalized as the Astartes, were the most powerful of the Emperor's armies, and without them, the Great Crusade would have faltered and failed.
Right.
But when corrupted by the Dark Gods, the legions also represented the greatest threat to the continued survival of human civilization.
That's what's so dangerous about chaos, man. Your dudes become their dudes,
Also represented the greatest threat to the continued survival of human civilization. To prevent the calamity of the Horus Heresy from ever repeating itself across the Imperium, Primarch Robute Guilliman argued in its immediate aftermath that the Legion should be reorganized into far smaller chapters, consisting of no more than 1,000 Space Marines. He penned his treatises in a sacred tome of military organization that would come to be known as the Codex Astartes. Guilliman's surviving loyal brothers, each in command of a legion of their own, were divided by his proposal, but none were more vocal in their opposition than Rogel Dorn, Primarch of the Imperial Fists Legion. It was only when Dorn realized that his steadfastness might lead to the very kind of internal conflict that Guilliman sought to avoid that he consented. In an event known as
saw
the
what he was
Second
trying to do.
Founding, the Imperial Fists were split into numerous chapters.
That's a question that I guess that just thinking now is, how is it, I guess, that Guilliman's kind of, he's not really 100% running things currently, right? Like, there's still, like, the overall council, but he has a big say in a lot of the goings-on and a lot of the reforming of certain things that are happening in the Imperium, correct? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he is actually head dude running things. But, like, is it just because his, the Ultramarines at the time or even now, they have such a vast territory, and they're just the most powerful chapter, that's why he's kind of like getting the most say in how things are done? Because like they're saying here, some of the other Primarchs didn't necessarily agree with him in how he was trying to do certain things and certain reforms and reshaping the way certain things happen in the Imperium to prevent another uprising. So I guess, like, yeah, what my question is, why is it that how is it that he is basically like the one that is getting the final say now over other Primarchs and et cetera, et cetera? Is it just because the Ultramarines were in the best position, the greatest power? Was it just the fact that right place, right time? Was he the one, that was able to get back to Terra and the council and exert his influence at the right time in the right way, et cetera, et cetera? Let me know, because that is something I'm curious about. But anyway, let's get back to the Templars.
Known as the Second Founding, the Imperial Fists were split into numerous chapters, and the Black Templars were born.
Okay.
Ironically, though Dorn had sought to keep his legion united, the establishment of the Black Templars, in many ways, merely gave independence to a distinct force that had already existed within the Imperial Fists. Even before the Horus Heresy, Sigismund, first captain of the Imperial Fists Legion, had gained a reputation as a warrior of peerless lethality and ability. Only the Primarch surpassed his almost supernatural genius for dealing death to the enemies of mankind. During the Siege of Terra, Sigismund was further elevated to the honorary position of Emperor's Champion, and the livery of the Imperial Fists that adorned his armor was painted over black to signal he represented the Emperor himself.
Damn!
And above all,
that's a... Damn! Talk about Giga Chad. That's some high praise there, man, for an Astartes to be elevated that high.
To signal he represented the Emperor himself. But above all, Sigismund radiated a zealousness and fanaticism that attracted others of a similar mindset to his side. When the time came to appoint a chapter master for the nascent Black Templars, Sigismund was an obvious choice. He initiated as his first warriors those among the former Legion who shared his zealotry and determination. Many were selected from the Templar Brethren, an elite force within the Imperial Fists that had guarded the Temple of Oaths aboard the flagship Phalanx. They adopted the black armor of Sigismund as their own.
Okay.
And it is believed from this early cadre that the entire chapter would take its name. Sigismund, however, refused to adhere to the Codex Astartes, regarding it as an insult by Guilliman, directed towards his own Primarch, Dorn. Yet he was also devoted to proving the loyalty of his chapter. By his order, the Black Templars embarked on a crusade into the unexplored reaches of the galaxy, far from the oversight of Guilliman and the Imperium, and deep into the heart of the enemy.
So they kind of just went rogue and just started going out and just killing shit and still spreading the good word of the Emperor and essentially continuing the Great Crusade on their own terms. That's from what I'm gathering so far. Interesting.
Of Guilliman and the Imperium, and deep into the heart of the enemy. For 10,000 years, this campaign has endured, the longest Space Marine crusade in the history of the Imperium. The Black Templars have strayed further and further from the Codex Astartes across the millennia, and are now virtually unrecognizable when compared to the force that Guilliman envisioned. Many of their variances are merely superficial, such as the adoption of distinct titles and ranks. Others, however, have completely altered the very foundation of the chapter, and must be kept secret from the Imperium. It is likely that no other chapter has deviated from the Codex Astartes to the same extent as the Black Templars.
I wonder then, you know, are they borderline getting to like Logar territory here with their zealotry? You know, I obviously still got a little bit of video here left to cover, but like, are they starting to get to that point where it's not just about conquering a world and spreading the truth of the Emperor, you know, the imperial truth, but it's, you know, it's also gotten to the point where that's their religious zealotry of them actually like truly believing, and non-believers are purged. That kind of, are they getting to that point? You know, is that, which again would be another irony. That's really how the heresy started, was people, you know, turning the word of the Emperor, the imperial truth, into a religion, and then, you know, the Emperor punishing them for that. But during this time, obviously, you know, the religious zealotry of the Imperium is already, you know, much greater, and yeah, so it's interesting. I love so many of the ironies that take place in this universe. It's just fascinating.
Their most distinctive element is their complete lack of a chapter homeworld, preferring instead to exist nomadically aboard their crusading fleets and armadas. Their only stationary bases are a series of keeps and outposts established on worlds they have conquered. These act as recruitment centers that process aspirant battle brothers, and replenishment stations that provide logistical support to.
So yeah, I guess that also would be a question, is, you know, if they're nomadic. I mean, I guess if they are nomadic, they could just, you know, recruit from wherever they, you know, they're going to, and if they find someone worthy, they could recruit them. You know, if they're big enough believers or whatever, if they fit their bill, they can just recruit them. That actually could be more of an advantage than not, because from what I understand, a lot of the other chapters have home worlds that they mostly recruit from. Like, that's pretty much where they look to, is just their home worlds. And so I guess maybe a lack of diversity in recruitment could definitely hinder some Space Marine chapters in certain ways, depending on their home worlds and what's going on in the home worlds and the people available there. So that could actually be a benefit to them being nomadic and just recruiting from wherever, if that's how they do it.
Princess aspirant battle brothers, and replenishment stations that provide logistical support to their mobile forces. Even these keeps, however, might be abandoned or reclaimed as the movement of the Crusade dictates. A Gloriana-class battleship, the Eternal Crusader, just one of 20 such vessels constructed during the Great Crusade,
that is a dope name,
serves as the chapter flagship. It houses all the sacred relics, chapels, and devotional places of the Black Templars, and acts as a de facto capital and fortress monastery. But the greatest secret of the Black Templars might be their exact disposition and fighting strength. The chapter is rumored to possess an unusually high number of Astartes, greatly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because they're not following the Codex, they're not abiding by the 1,000 numbers law, so they could have tens of thousands of Astartes in their forces. You know, they could have vast numbers. but they don't necessarily also have a Primarch either. So, right? Well, I mean, I guess they would still have loyalty towards Rogel Dorn, right? The fist guy, where they diverged from. So I guess technically he would be considered their Primarch, you know?
The chapter is rumored to possess an unusually high number of Astartes, greatly exceeding not only the 1,000 warrior limit imposed by Guilliman, but perhaps even the legions of old.
Really? Even more than legions of the past? That would be crazy then. There would be a force to be reckoned with. Damn.
A limit imposed by Guilliman, but perhaps even the legions of old. If true, this would make the Black Templars the largest Space Marine force within the Imperium, by an enormous margin. Their exact numbers are obfuscated by rarely assembling the entire chapter together, and instead dividing it between several crusading fleets.
Yeah, having essentially cells, you know, doing different things in different areas, probably, you know, commanded by different people, and they might have, it might be a situation where each, you know, faction might be doing its own thing and isn't necessarily aware of what other ones might be doing, kind of a situation. So
assembling the entire chapter together, and instead dividing it between several crusading fleets.
It would also make it hard for, you know, like if Guilliman decided he wanted to, like, get at them and really enforce Codex, you know, laws and limit their numbers, etc., it would make them difficult to track all the way down, you know, and you know, force them to abide by their law or purge them, kind of a situation. It'd make that very difficult by splitting up that way.
Chapter together, and instead dividing it between several crusading fleets. There are typically at least 3 operating at all times, though as many as 14 have been known to exist simultaneously. Each fleet is led by a marshal, and might consist of 1 or several fighting companies, which are in turn commanded by a castellan. Fighting companies themselves can vary drastically in numbers. Some contain only a few dozen battle brothers, while others exceed 100. Individual Astartes are rarely assigned to a company by a superior, but instead choose their assignments based on fraternal bonds and codes of honor.
Okay.
Specialists such as apothecaries and chaplains, meanwhile, have near complete autonomy within the chapter, able to move between formations as they see fit. In addition to the Astartes themselves, companies include the far more numerous non-augmented personnel who supply the material, specialists and auxiliary assets required to keep the Crusade fleets operational. Even at the tactical level, the Black Templars have eschewed the rigid doctrine of the Codex Astartes in favor of more flexible and ad hoc units.
No, they even have tanks.
This is epitomized in the Crusader Squad, a unique merging of veteran Astartes warriors with unproven new recruits. These form the mainstay of the chapter's armies, with most elite Crusader squads led by sword brethren. These are the greatest warriors within the chapter, spread amongst its many squads, rather than grouped together, as the Codex Astartes would dictate. Likewise, where other chapters would rotate their Astartes between various companies to learn different methods of warfare, Space Marines of the Black Templars are encouraged to seek out their own path.
It sounds like they have a lot more freedoms in terms of what they want to do and how they want to fight compared to other chapters. They're able to choose who they want to fight with, the missions they want to go on, the various, I don't know if necessarily tactics or whatever, but the various ways of waging war they want to learn, the various, you know, I guess leaders they want to learn from, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, divisions of things they want to learn from. You know, it sounds like they have quite a bit of freedom in deciding what they want to do and where they want to go and how they want to fight and who to fight with.
Black Templars are encouraged to seek out their own path. Many spend decades or even centuries without any advance in rank, and no dishonor is seen in this. The path from novice initiate to fleet marshal.
That actually is an interesting point, you know, when he talks about there's no necessarily promotion in ranks for, you know, many centuries. And that honestly, it like, when you have people, you know, Astartes, when they can live for thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of years, you know, depending on injuries and et cetera, like, it might be pretty hard to advance in general when you know, the whole chain of command and advancing and getting promotions. That would probably, I would assume that would be the norm with people that live that long, you know? Most advancements would probably just come from a necessity of brothers dying in battle, so someone else needs to get promoted to take their place. I feel like that would be the majority of how people advance in any of the Astartes chapters.
Dishonor is synonymous. The path from novice initiate to fleet marshal is thought to be guided by the Emperor alone. The title of High Marshal is bestowed upon the Supreme Commander of the Black Templars, to which all other marshals swear fealty. The High Marshal enjoys perhaps the most autonomy of any military commander within the Imperium of Man.
Yeah, they sound like they just kind of run around and do whatever they want to, for the most part. I mean, obviously they're following the guidelines of what they believe the imperial truth and the emperor's word and what the emperor was trying to do during the Great Crusade, and they're continuing that Great Crusade. They're basically holding on the ideals of what the Imperium was before the heresy happened, is what it sounds like.
Most autonomy of any military commander within the Imperium of Man, decreeing by his own designs where and when his forces will engage the enemy. Even imperial governors, lord commanders of the Astra Militarum, and other Astartes might be denied help from the Black Templars if their cause is considered corrupt or unworthy. Yet they make a special exception for the requests of the ecclesiarchy, and this provides a clue to the most fundamental divergence of the Black Templars. While many chapters of the Adeptus Astartes demonstrate some kind of secular spiritualism or ancestor worship, the Black Templars have fully embraced the literal truth of the imperial cult.
Yep.
They see the Emperor of Man as nothing less than a god to be worshipped and adored, and to whom sacrifices are owed on the field of battle.
That's interesting. That's pretty interesting that they're the only chapter that actually sees them as a god. They've taken on that religious element. So I guess that kind of answers my question that I asked earlier is, you know, are they getting to that point, you know, where Logar was with the word bearers? I believe it's the word bearers. And it seems like, yeah, they believe the Emperor's a god, and they're fully on there with that, you know, zealotry, which was gonna bring up another question of, you know, what happens with how they interact with other Astartes chapters, because they're basically like a rogue element that is just doing their own thing outside of, I guess, what would be considered the proper laws of what Astartes are supposed to be and whatnot, and what, you know, Gilliman wants from Astartes. So, like, you know, if you know, the Templars were to, you know, get involved with something that the Ultramarines are doing, or if they somehow their fleets converge on an area, I would, you know, how does that work? You know, do they fight against each other? Do they cooperate with certain things? Are they, you know, I'm curious how that would work. Would any of the other chapters try to arrest, I don't know, bring them in for like trials or heresy against things that the Empire, you know, the Imperium's trying to do, you know? That's very interesting.
Be worshipped and adored, and to whom sacrifices are owed on the field of battle. The most visible expression of this belief are the devotion chains they bring into battles. Astartes of the Black Templars will typically bind their weapons to their fists on the eve of conflict, removing them only when victory has been achieved. Chains of zeal, by contrast, are permanent, affixed to the most fanatical battle brothers, and only removed upon their death. This uncompromising belief and religious fervor permeates every aspect of the chapter, and is used to justify the harshest of measures. Even amongst the Space Marine chapters, the Black Templars are capable of extreme violence and abhorrent sacrifices.
I would assume so.
Yet, no matter the scale of the massacres they perpetrate, or the consequences of their intolerance, so long as it is done in the Emperor's name.
I guess that also, now that I'm thinking about it, brings up another question of, you know, is there like a version of the Mechanicus, you know, that work with them or that have converted with them? Because to my understanding, you know, the Mechanicus are who really maintain a lot of the ships and et cetera, creating their weapons and their bullets and maintaining them and their armor and stuff like that. I mean, I would assume there's some level of, you know, the Space Marines having to maintain their own stuff, of course. But if something like truly gets broken to get replaced, I believe, unless correct me if I'm wrong, I could be mistaken, but they would have to go to, you know, a Forge World and get things, you know, repaired or something like that by one of the Mechanicus factions. So, like, is there one they specifically work with? Is there a faction of the Mechanicus, of the Adeptus Mechanicus that's converted with them, that they bring along with them? You know, how does that work?
The consequences of their intolerance, so long as it is done in the Emperor's name, it will always be justified. The zealotry of the Black Templars is also expressed in the chapter's absolute refusal to accommodate librarians, the sanctioned psychers of the Astartes, within their ranks.
So they want nothing to do with psychers, huh? Interesting.
Their zealous hatred of anything corrupted or suspected to be corrupted by the warp leaves no room for any kind of mutant or aberration. This prejudicial hatred of librarians is often misinterpreted by outsiders as a sweeping intolerance for all forms of psyker. But in truth, the Black Templars hold a special reverence for astropaths. These individuals are seen as holy disciples, honored for their gifts that allow them to witness the light of the Emperor.
Yeah, on the warp.
The newly crafted Primaris Marines, however, have been viewed with equal parts suspicion and adulation across each of the crusading fleets. Black Templars seem especially suited to undergo the agonizing transformation into this new and stronger breed of Space Marine. But some also view the process as blasphemy upon the original work of the Emperor.
That also brings up a good point, yeah, because the Emperor's not doing it. It's seen as, it could be seen as heresy. It could be seen as another corruption. Even though it's based off what the Emperor did, it wasn't created by the Emperor himself, and maybe he had a reason for that. Huh. That's an interesting point. That is an interesting point.
View the process as blasphemy upon the original work of the Emperor. The rumors that many of the first Primaris Marines sent to reinforce the chapter were slaughtered has done little to ease the tensions between the Black Templars and the Imperium they serve. The Black Templars, however, still possess the intense desire first held by Sigismund to prove their devotion to the Emperor. Every subsequent High Marshal has repeated the vow of their founder and continued the crusade that he started. The Black Templars have annihilated countless alien races, shattered the foundations of stellar empires, and even prosecuted imperial worlds on which the slightest taint of corruption was found. Across their 10,000-year history, they took part in the Great Scouring that formed in the aftermath of the Horus Heresy. They confronted the Black Crusades of Abaddon the Despoiler and the mightiest wars of the Greenskins.
Okay.
To the darkness, they have brought fire. To the ignorant, faith. But in the unfolding new age that has come to be known as the Era Indomitus, the Black Templars have found the ultimate crucible in which to prove their faith. As the galaxy burns to the laughter of the dark gods, and the light of the Imperial faith lies gutted, the chapter has been reinvigorated. Long-abandoned chapter keeps have been restored, and new ones raised on the burning rubble of traitor strongholds. Fresh crusades are being formed, and old ones reinforced. On 1,000 different battlefields, their righteous hatred and tireless intolerance drives them onwards. For the galaxy is beset by the alien, the mutant, the heretic, and the witch, and the Black Templars can suffer none to live.
Okay.
The Templin Institute investigates the nations, factions, and organizations of alternate worlds. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to join the Templin Institute, consider pledging to our Patreon page. Along with increased security access, you'll be able to vote in polls to determine future topics, get custom wallpaper every week, and receive some other exclusive rewards.
All right, there you go. That was the Black Templars chapter, Warhammer 40,000 by the Templin Institute. That was a great video. I like that video. That was awesome. It sounds like the Black Templars are really kind of holding on to what the Imperium was, the ideals and what the Imperium was and what the Emperor wanted for the Imperium before the heresy started. And it sounds like they're just continuing the Great Crusade the Emperor set out, and going out and spreading the word of the Emperor. And it sounds like they have gone to that religious zealot, fervor of believing, the Emperor is a god and he should be worshipped as such. And again, I really want to see the Emperor come back and how that would shake up things. With everything that I've learned so far, and with all the various ironies, and how the religion is really kind of keeping everyone focused and giving people hope and faith that there can be a greater future in this dark time for humanity. I would love to see the Emperor come back just to see how it would shake things up and what would happen and how things would go, and how the Emperor would come back. If he would come back as, if he were to just die and return, in another body because he's a perpetual, or if humanity's faith has been so great that his spirit in the warp is just, and the fact that he's being fed so many psychers that all this psychic energy and all this faith and belief in him is coalescing his spirit and making it even stronger in the warp, that he becomes a new god. That would be so interesting. But anyway, back to the Templars. It's just, they sound like a very interesting faction. They're very, very deep into the religious beliefs, but that also sounds like out of a lot of the chapters, they really have, they don't really answer to anyone but themselves, and they have a lot of freedom in doing what they're doing in that. Any Astartes, they're nomadic, so they probably recruit from whatever worlds they travel around to, and that might give them a more diverse background and fighters, and what fighters are capable of, and the type of martial arts they might bring to the chapters, and or skills that could be brought into the chapter. What the various Astartes soldiers decide they want to specialize in, who they want to fight with, who they want to command, who they want to command them, who they want to be under. It's all up to really choice in what they want to do and where they want to go and where they want to fight and how they want to fight. It really seems like it's up to them. So it seems like they really have a ton of freedom based in, what their chapter tenets are. And on top of that, they also sound like they are potentially the single largest military force of the Astartes out there, with their numbers possibly ranging in the tens of thousands potentially. Being the Codex Astartes is limiting other chapters to only having 1,000 members versus them who aren't following that. Yeah. So that's very interesting. Very good video. Learned some interesting stuff about the Black Templars. Pretty interesting group and chapter. I wonder if they are a specific, chapter that you can play in the tabletop. Do they have any special rules that apply to them? It seems like they don't have any psychers because they don't really believe in that, but are they able to field more units because they're able to have more units because they don't follow the Codex Astartes? Do they have any other special units that some of the other chapters might not have, you know, to play with on the tabletop, etc., etc.? So let me know that stuff down in the comments, and let me know anything else, you know, about the Black Templars that maybe this video didn't cover, or if you guys got any other videos on the Black Templars that you would like me to check out, because they sound pretty badass. Sounds like something I would like to learn more about. But like I said earlier, this video, I will have a link to it down below in the description, and to the Templin Institute. Sorry, I was saying Templar. I'm so used to saying the word Templar now. The Templin Institute, I will have a link to their channel down below. They got a Patreon, they got a bunch of stuff to offer, so check out all their content, check out their Patreon. They're on all the stuff, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They've got a Discord, so go check out all their stuff and join all their stuff if you guys want to. They seem like they got a lot of good content, and yeah, check them out. But I appreciate you guys watching this video, coming in and hanging out and chilling. If you're watching here to the very end, thank you very, very much. I greatly appreciate it. And yeah, if you like this video, consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me out, helps the channel grow. This Saturday, as long as nothing comes up between now and then, this Saturday the 9th, we're going to do a community game night and some Dark Tide, starting around 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm on the eastern, you know, coast of the United States, so we're going to start around then. Probably play for like 4 to 6 hours, somewhere in there. We're going to rotate people in and out as best as I can. They want to come and play, but if you just want to come and hang out and enjoy the stream and meet some new people and have a good time, please do. We'd love to come and hang out and you know, say hello. But for now, appreciate you guys. Hope you're having a wonderful day whenever you're watching this, and whatever time it is. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good one, everybody.